Good afternoon, dear participants. And despite really extensive and challenging events that are currently happening in Ukraine, we're really proud that our business community follows the new Green Deal of the European Union. And based on the amount of the Ukrainian audience that has joined us, it's very important for us to think about going to the environmental path. I do hope that all of our participants from Ukraine are now being safe, and I hope that you're taking shelter, and I hope that even the air raid sirens are not going to interrupt our events, and we're going to take the most benefits of it. So we're pleased to welcome you at the Product Environmental Footprint and its Benefits for Manufacturing Enterprises events. That is the components to the circular economy and the new opportunities for growth for the international program for the EU for environment that has been supported by the European Union and has been implemented in Ukraine. My name is Katerina Romanova. I am the expert in communication of the resource effective and clean manufacturing in Ukraine, and I have the honor to be the main moderator of our today's event. I would like to ask you to take a look at our technical moments. You already were able to read out in the chat the main conditions and prerequisite for our technical issues. We're going to have the simultaneous interpretation during the event, so please make sure that you will choose the language, either Ukrainian or English, the one that is going to be preferable for you. And also a request for our speakers to turn your microphones and video on during your speech. But if you'll have any questions for our audience, for our participants, and if you'll have any questions or comments during the presentation, please write them in the chat. We will answer to all of the questions for the specially dedicated Q&A session. But still, just for us to have the feedback, please make sure that you will also leave your email with your question in the chat. I would like to ask you to follow our agenda because we have only 3 hours, even though we will have a break, but we will be working straight away till 5 o'clock Kyiv time. And I just wanted to mention that we also have recording, and time after time are going to be made in the screenshot for reporting and accountability and for providing the information on our event for the social media. So I would like us to switch to the official introductory speeches of our events, and we would like to pass the floor to Yevhen Fedorenko, the Deputy Minister of Environment and Natural Resources of Ukraine. Yevhen, please, the floor is yours. Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Thank you very much for having me today. And it's very important for us in these challenging times for our country to have this meeting being conducted. We understand that right now we're already discussing the issues of actually turning our manufacturing into the environmental friendly path. So we are speaking about very specific components and specific things that are an important part of the circular economy. So once again, that gives us a clearer understanding that we are on the right path. We are on our European path towards our production and manufacturing as well. We not only would like to be the part of the European Union and we are on our path to ascending, but we believe ourselves to be a civilized country and we believe ourselves to be the part of the European world as well. It is very important that in the framework of the EU for Environment project, with the support of our international partners, that help us in implementing this project of the international technical aid. I just wanted to outline that the Ministry of Environment and Natural Resources of Ukraine is considering the issues of circular economy, and we pay lots of attention to those questions and issues. The ministry is trying to be very active on working with the technical assistance projects, and I do believe that in the framework of the EU for Environment projects, you had already had these opportunities to learn more about this question, and you know that our ministry is really interested in these issues and in these questions. And I just wanted to inform you that just a month ago, the ministry has created a specific department on circular economy that is a part of the department on circular economy. The ministry understands that if we are in a political dialogue today, not only in the technical dialogue on the restoration of our country, and as of now, we have a clear plans of how we're going to renovate and restore and rebuild our country, and in what path we're going to do that. So those activities that have been presupposed, those activities that are going to be implemented, all of those activities are going to be conducted in correspondence to the Green Deal and based on the main foundations of the circular economy. So our today's meeting, our today's discussion of important issues is one of the elements for our path of introducing the circular economy uh, to the state policy, to the different levels of its implementation. I do hope that as the result of this event, that all of the stakeholders, all of our enterprises will receive all of the information that would be interesting and needed for them. They can also use the things that are going to be discussed today in their business processes so that Ukrainian business sector could step by step become the part of the European environment, and so that we will be able to adapt the results of our activities to the European criteria of the circular economy. And Yevhen has muted himself. I'm sorry. So I do hope that it's going to be very interesting and beneficial for the enterprises and for all of the participants that take part in our discussion today. And I wish all of us a productive day. Thank you. Thank you so much. And we would like to pass the floor to Victoria Kovalenko, the state expert on smart specialization and resource efficiency from the Directorate of the Development of the Real Sector of Economy, the Ministry of Economy of Ukraine. So please, Victoria, the floor is yours. Thank you so much. When after the Ministry of Environment and Natural Resources presented, I even do not know what to say more. Thank you very much, Yevhen, for giving this broad introduction. On behalf of the Ministry of Economy, I wanted to welcome all of the participants and also wanted to thank our organizers for conducting this event. Thank you very much for your work, that even though the challenging times, you still continue on the work on developing the green economy. We're really grateful to our European partners and international partners, the EU for Environment Project, for your wholesome support for Ukraine. Thank you very much for your continuous support. I'm really grateful for our NGOs and governmental organizations because you've done a lot throughout this 8 months of the full-scale war. A lot of things have been done right now already, and we have a lot of things to do. We need to support the different sectors of manufacturing and economy, building the infrastructure, building the renovation programs for real estate and businesses. And in energy and environmental sectors, we have a lot of work to do. So I do believe that quite soon in the future, we'll have a lot of things to do. So let us not lose the hope and let us have the engines to move on. And thank you very much for inviting me to participate in this workshop in these challenging times. Thank you very much for your work and helping us to get closer to our victory. Thank you very much for making our country greener, let us say, economy-wise greener. So I do wish us a productive day today, and the most important things, please stay safe, please take care of yourself in order to have the strength to restore and renovate our strong country. Thank you. Yes, thank you so much, Victoria. And also would like to pass for the introductory speech. I would like to pass the floor to Gregory Tsouris, the advisor for the Green Deal, for the representative of the European Union to Ukraine. Please, Gregory, the floor is yours.
Hello to all, and I will be speaking in English, so I'll try to be concise and speak slowly for our interpretation. So, it is really admirable, and I think everybody also from Brussels and in the EU member states are really looking at what is happening in Ukraine with, right, from one side for the Ukrainian people. And I think that, yes, the candidacy of Ukraine formalizes a little bit the what is understood by everyone, that Ukraine is part of the EU, is a European country, and its future, I think, is also European. just to come back on the topic of today, been seeing increasingly opinions, documents, and analysis being made by think tanks, by governmental and non-governmental entities. And I think one line that comes very often in common is that the urgent need of reconstruction of the economy most probably has an apparent win-win situation and a low-hanging fruit to grab. And this is well, transforming into a green economy. Obviously, with the Ukraine's path to accession to the EU, the transposition of EU acquis, which is enormous in these topics, will have to happen. But this presupposes a lot of big changes at the level of at company level and at industry level, at sector level. So what we are going to be discussing about today and hearing about, I think, is very strongly linked also and very close to the mindset of the European Union about how it would like its own economy to grow in the coming years. And in a context of difficult times in terms of energy prices, but also of raw material provision. And to all of this, yes, the idea of a circular economy, sustainable economy, zero pollution economy is behind everything. And one of the key mechanisms to get there is to get the facts right. Why? That matters at level of at company level and at consumer level. Well, first of all, to be able to reward the companies that are really taking a path of producing green products, sustainable products, and also penalize the greenwashing companies that well, do not really integrate and incorporate in their production cycles the new ways of producing. And it's also for consumers a necessity to be able to very quickly and in a uniform way identify the parameters that the product has in terms of impact on the environment, climate, but also at some point of time, probably social justice as well. So not to be very long, I think that the cornerstone of this is what we are going to be discussing about today. I guess more a unified methodology for assessing the well, life cycle, while taking a life cycle approach, assessing the impact of products on the environment, talking about it very broadly, in a unified way, and the advantages that come with that by using unified standards that are also the ones of the EU, and by being able thus to also more easily export to the EU when the time comes, this measurement of the environmental performance of the products in the EU market. So I think it's a relatively new ground, although these methodologies are around for almost 10 years, but the number of products that are being thought from the design stage in a different way are increasing exponentially. So I think there we also see that there is a market that is in whole expansion. Yes, maybe the last point I wanted to make is that in order not to find ourselves in a situation where we are running really fast in order to catch up with these requirements for selling in the EU products at some point of time, by 2030, 2035, yeah, working on this early is very important. And I think the companies that have started doing that already in Ukraine are very well placed also for partnerships in the EU that will make, I think, provide quite a lot of growth in the country. Thank you very much. I don't want to be long. It's a passionate subject, but happy to also reply to any questions or if I can take part in the discussion later on. Thank you.
Дякую вам, пане Грегорі. А зараз я запрошую до слова Андрія Ремізова, виконуючого...
Thank you, Gregory, and I would like to pass the floor to Andriy Remizov, the Acting Director of the State Institution on Entrepreneurship and Export Promotion Office. Andriy, please, the floor is yours.
Дуже дякую. Вітаю всіх учасників, вітаю всіх партнерів. Дякую за запрошення на цю.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, dear partners. Thank you very much for inviting me to this very important event. And I just wanted to say that our office, as an institution that creates specific opportunities for the exporters and entrepreneurs of Ukraine, another important question that we have is actually raising the awareness on circular economy, on raising awareness on the lean manufacturing and ecological manufacturing, on the goals of sustainable development, and on the ESG, and ESG values. So basically how the companies influence the social, environmental and governmental issues. So in the framework of our activity together with the Ministry of Digital Transformation, we are implementing the project DIA Business. Basically, we have a lot of services provided for the businesses and entrepreneurs. There is an investment platform, the platform that helps the entrepreneurs who are reaching the sustainable development goals to print and post their own investment projects and to find the investors for that. So if if, for example, the manufacturing or the enterprise follows the circular economy or the lean and environmental friendly production schemes, then they can actually apply for additional investment. We are also working on the other investment opportunities for businesses. We're going to provide more information on what the ESG goals are and what are the
І в рамках цієї платформи ми будемо приділяти
sustainable development goals. And in the framework of our platform for DIA Business, we're going to have additional attention on how the businesses can be environmental friendly. You can have the self-test that you can and self-evaluation that you can take, and you can understand whether you are following some crucial demands and requirements as of the sustainable development goals. Moreover, we are also promoting the different opportunities for entrepreneurs on going greener. As soon as we have any grants available or any programs for the businesses to go greener, we're promoting that as well. And that is one of our main tasks. And we're also planning, as of now, to creating a separate page on DIA Business Portal on Going Greener Way for the businesses to become greener, more information on the lean production and manufacturing, on the environmental friendly ways to run your businesses. We have ideas on creating the free of charge courses for the entrepreneurs on that, and we would be really happy to work with our partners and continue working with our partners who are the organizers of this event. And we want to build up a good awareness and informational campaign of how we can go greener. And we're going to end up with some services on DIA Business Portal. So once again, I would like to welcome everyone here. Thank you for coming. I wish us a productive work today and to increase our knowledge on circular economy and on the ecological business conduct. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Andriy. And just wanted to introduce you with Tetiana Chernyavska, who is the coordinator of the EU for Environment program, and she is responsible for the Circular Economy and Resource Efficiency Unit for the UNIDO. So, Tetiana, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Katerina, and I'm happy to be here in this audience, which is sharing the same goal and which is coming together in such hard times. And I really appreciate all the efforts the team and the people who are here had to make it here. As representatives of UNIDO, United Nations Industrial Development Organization, I have to also remind ourselves that the project which allows us to get together and speak about greening the industry is EU for Environment, which is funded by the European Union and implemented by several partners. For the industry case, it's UNIDO responsible for activities and direct interaction with industrial sectors and industries. And it's a great privilege for us to not only speak with the industry, but also to have certain platforms which we are promoting at a global level, at national and regional level, also to be implemented in Ukraine. And in this case, I'm speaking about the Sustainable Development Goals, which were already mentioned by the representative of the Export-Oriented Association. And we also consider that promoting those goals and indicators which are associated with them and translating what exactly those goals mean for concrete industries is very important for us. Why? Well, we all know about the crisis, the triple crisis, which the whole world is facing, not to speak about the Ukrainian case, where it is even much more deteriorated. We have a crisis of biodiversity, which we have to remember about and see as a means of our existence, very existence. We have a crisis of climate change, climate issues which we are also feeling, and also, of course, the issue of resources, scarcity of resources, accessibility of resources. Energy crisis is on the top of that list, but of course there are many other issues which we are facing. In this regard, working with industries and looking at products which they bring to the market, and making it possible to impact the way the products are produced and used and discarded at the end of their useful life. That is the core understanding of UNIDO for implementation of circular economy as industrial economy. This economy would allow us not only to look at the very end of pipe where we see waste and how to deal with this, but we look at the very beginning, at where the product and materials for that product are sourced, how the product is produced, how it's put into the use, and how it is used, and then how the waste comprised of those products is treated. So this particular event here is a very, very first step for us to benchmark from the technical perspective the production practices in Ukraine of particular products with the established best practices, and to see how far we are in reaching those best practices and how far we can go with our improvements and with our way to improve the use of resources. I will not continue more. I'm sure there are many experts here who would speak about this matter in more detail. I would like to welcome all the inputs from experts, and I would like to thank government and the EU representatives for their support for this initiative. And I am sure that we are starting with this event a very, very long way of really making thorough translation of available best practices into the reality of Ukraine. Greener and prosperous Ukraine. Thank you very much, and I wish you a very productive day. Thank you.
Дякуємо вам, пані Тетяна. Дякую всім за надихаючі промови.
Thank you very much, Tatiana. Thank you very much for your inspiring speeches. Thank you for the support of Ukraine and Ukrainian people. It's very important that we're all going through to the environmental safety of our country. Now, I would like to switch to the first part of our event on the promoting greener products at national and international level. And I would like to pass the floor to Johannes Fressner, the UNIDO international expert, who's going to tell us on the greener products tools in the switch to the economic growth. Please, Johannes, the floor is yours. And please make sure that your microphone is on.
Не чуємо, вмикніть, будь
You're
ласка.
muted.
So now it's on.
Чудово.
Thank you, Katerina. Thanks for the patience. Let me start by expressing our admiration, our sincere admiration for the strength of the Ukrainian nation and Ukrainian people in these times. Our topic now is to develop path towards green growth. And for green growth, we obviously need green products. So my contribution is a brief reflection on which tools we in Europe are using to support green growth, which tools we are promoting to make circular economy happen. Today, focusing on the product level, but looking a little bit around. This list comes a little bit as a personal selection. These are the tools I briefly would like to call your attention to. The part of these tools is the focus of today's workshop. I will start especially with the European eco-label. The product environmental footprint will be dealt with in detail for the rest of the afternoon. From my perspective, the environmental European management auditing scheme has a dedicated specific role also in greening products, not only the organization. Green public procurement, I feel, is because of the sheer volume of goods which are moved by the public authorities in Europe, an important instrument. And then there are other instruments supporting this greening of products, which are reaching out into chemical legislation or partnerships, how to secure the raw material basis for Europe. To start with, European eco-label for products. Why do we have it? Consumers make conscious choices if they are well informed. At least that's my personal experience. So we need transparent ecological criteria. Minister has mentioned this already today. Of course, not compromising product quality. That's why we have the European eco-label, like a stamp on products which comply with renowned environmental criteria. Just to show you, because the European eco-label actually, to my perception, is a success story. As of now, we have almost 90,000 products which are entitled, which are certified according to the criteria, which are entitled to carry the environmental EU eco label. I mean, this big number, of course, is a challenge, because the acceptance of eco-level products in the markets has motivated many from the food trade especially to come up with their own labels. And this is linking to what we have heard already, the greenwashing, what we definitely want to avoid. These observations have led to the definition of the product environmental footprint and the organizational environmental footprint to make life easier for consumers to make an informed choice by providing information on the product from different perspectives in a comprehensive way, and will provide much more information after this brief introduction. We have harmonized methods in some sectors, like in construction. This scheme is working very well all across Europe. Let's jump to the eco-management and auditing scheme, to environmental management, providing an organizational tool for enterprises to understand their resource use, to assess environmental impacts, and to come up with well-thought, clearly motivated plans how to improve environmental performance, not only looking at the site, not only looking at the enterprise itself, but considering also the life cycle of the products. So EMAS actually is providing some systematic tools how to continuously improve the organization in their sites, but also the impact resulting from the life cycle of the products and services delivered. So EMAS has an important role. Green public procurement has a very important place because leading by example, in these cases up to the governments, as governments move about 14% of the EU's GDP, which means an overall budget of 2 trillion euros annually. It is really important to show by example that the governments are serious and are buying products which comply with the environmental criteria which we are looking for. This is why with regard to green public procurement, there is also guidance, best practice, description, and so on. And last but not least, we have some instruments which are maybe not directly seen as instruments to support greening of products, but which have a very important role to play. This is Levels, which is a program for the construction sector to promote sustainable building materials. And I especially would like to call your attention towards REACH, the European legislation around chemicals, because to use them carefully, to manage them properly, and again, my personal perspective, to limit the use of some chemicals is an important basis for green products. And speaking now the language of a circular economy, to make recycling of materials possible. Because there is a number of materials of concern which really is a big barrier to recycling of materials then. Yeah, this was it basically, what I wanted to convey to you as an introduction to the topics. Thank you very much for your attention, and I wish you a successful meeting.
Дякуємо вам, пане Йоханнесу. А для кращого розуміння
Thank you very much, Johannes, and for a better understanding of the political context of the EU policy, I would like to invite Anders Schreiber, the UNIDO international expert on the pre-sustainability expert. Please, Anne, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the introduction. So yes, my name is Anne and I work at Pre-Sustainability. I have been quite involved in the PEF development in the past at the DG Environment at the European Commission side. So I will indeed give you a bit of insight and the basis where the PEF actually came from, the Environmental Footprint Initiative of the European Commission. Next slide, please. So as you all might know and have seen already, today worldwide there are like more than 400 environmental labels on the market. When you go to supermarkets, when you look online, you see a lot of different labels, which is very confusing for everyone. Next slide, please. Next. The European Commission did a study a few years ago, or probably already like 10 years ago, actually, on the trust that the consumers have in those labels. And this figure here, this map, shows that the darker the color, the less trust or the less confidence people have in environmental labels. And out of that, it was very clear that the European Commission needed to take some initiative. Next slide, please. So the European Commission wanted to create an open market and a single equal market for environmental, for products that want to compete on environmental level, let's say it like that. And so in 2010, the Environmental Council conclusions asked specifically the Commission to come up with a harmonized methodology to calculate the environmental performance of products and organizations. And so in 2010, the European Commission started to develop the product environmental footprint and the organization environmental footprint, which both were published in 2013. Next slide, please. So to be precise, on 9th of April 2013, the first PEF methodology and OEF method was published through a recommendation. So be very clear, this is a recommendation. So in this document, the European Commission says, we recommend you to use this methodology if you want to calculate the environmental impact of your products or your organization. At the same time, it announced also a pilot phase. So it announced a pilot phase which lasted around 5 years until 2018, where the Commission asked the industry to volunteer in developing industry-specific rules in line with the PEF method. So these are called PEFCRs. Next slide, please. So the PEFCR stands for Product Environmental Footprint Category Rules. So these are product-specific rules or product category rules that are developed. Some of them are developed already by the industry on a voluntary basis. And each of these documents provides some very specific guidelines for the calculation and the reporting of environmental impacts for a certain product category. So it is in line with the PEF method, but it focuses on the most important parameters for the product in scope for that specific product. And it really has the goal to allow comparability among the products that are covered by these by the specific category rule. Next slide, please. So during this pilot phase, which started in 2013, there were around 20 product category rules, PEFCRs, being developed. And they are listed here on this slide. So you see quite a lot of category rules. So for each of them, there is one document available today that describes on how to calculate the environmental footprint for that specific product category. There are quite some on the level of food and drink products like beer or pasta, packed water. Animal feed is also was also participating, and then there are quite a number of industrial products like photovoltaic panels, thermal insulation, intermediate paper products, IT equipment, or batteries, for example. So these are all the ones that are published and available today online. The validity of these documents were until end of 2021, but they are, I mean, some of them are being updated at the moment. Next slide, please. Next, please. Thank you. So at the end of this pilot phase in 2018, there were already some potential policy actions presented by the European Commission. For example, on product level, the PEF could potentially be used within the development of the EU eco-label criteria. Or within the development of the green public procurement. So this fits very well what Johannes was explaining to us before. But also, for example, for eco-design criteria. At corporate level, the organization environmental footprint could be used for non-financial disclosure, like in the taxonomy, for example, and for identifying environmental impacts, like in the context of EMAS, which is more on organizational level. These were just ideas which are raised. Next slide, please. So in the meantime, a lot has been happening. So here I show a timeline of the different steps that took place. There was a pilot phase. After in 2013, we had the first recommendation published. There was a pilot phase, and after that pilot phase, which was around 2018, 2019, the Commission went into a transition phase, and this is actually the moment. These are the years in which the European Commission is discussing about policy implementation, and this transition phase will end as soon as a policy or multiple policies are in place. Next slide, please. During the transition phase, the industry was invited to continue developing product-specific rules, and there were 5 additional PFCRs there are 5 additional PFCRs that were launched. They are expected to be published by mid-2023, so mid next year. And here it's just highlighted the ones that were supported by PRE, but also there are some where we also participate as consultants, where we give support or where we are part of the review panel of these developments. So this is currently ongoing. Next slide, please. And so if we look back to the timeline, next, please, if you just click a few times, you will see the different timings appearing. So in December 2019, the European Green Deal was published. In October, it was end of October 2019, a new commission took place, and the presidency of the European Commission took place with Ursula von der Leyen, and she published 2 months later the European Green Deal with a lot of actions taken in there, but also what we see here on the slide in December 2021, so less than 1 year ago, like 11 months ago, actually the European Commission published an updated recommendation of the PEF and OEF methodology. So it's the same as 2013, but it's an updated version which integrates all the learnings from the transition phase. If we go to the next slide, here I just want to give you an overview of the European Green Deal. Where you see all the different actions that are announced in the Green Deal, and the ones highlighted in dark green are the ones that can have potential links or use of the product environmental footprint, such as, for example, the Corporate Sustainable Reporting Initiative, but also the EU taxonomy, the Sustainable Products Policy, but the 2 that are most interesting are the new regulation for batteries. I will come to that later this afternoon, and the Green Claims initiative. If we go to the next slide just shows an overview of the timing of all the different activities that took place in the last years. And there we see in the next slide, we see that in December, previous slide maybe, in December 2020, the European Commission adopted for the first time a proposal on a new regulation for sustainable batteries. This proposal has been discussed in the last 2 years and has been approved by the Council a few months ago, but I will also come to that more in detail, because it's today the only real concrete proposal that applies, that mandatory requests the use of the product environmental footprints. And it's a very nice example of how things could move forward. Next slide, please. In the next slide, we see that on the top of the slide, 2022, there it is on the first line, it's written that there is a legislative proposal for substantiating green claims foreseen to be published. This is now the deadline of publishing this legislative proposal is foreseen for end of November. And this will be the one in principle that says how the PEF shall be used by companies, mandatory, voluntary, in which situations. So how to substantiate green claims. Do we have to use PEF, or are there other methodologies that have to be used when you want to substantiate, when you want to make a green claim? So this is one of the interesting initiatives on policy level where we are waiting for. And with this one, I would like to stop and give the word to the next speaker.
Дякуємо вам за вашу презентацію.
Thank you so much for your presentation. And now we will speak about the development of the green procurement and providing the activity, eco procurements as well. I'll hope that we will have the help of Farid Yaker, the program officer for the economy division from the UNEP, together with Leticia Montero, the project manager officer for economy division, also from the UNEP. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Katarina. And greetings to all the Ukrainian friends that are joining today. Numerous, I see over 100 participants. Really pleased by this participation, and really send you all my regards in these difficult times you're going through and Ukraine is going through. I'm Farid Yaker. I am the lead officer on sustainable procurement based in Paris, working for the economy division. I'm going to share my screen. Is it up?
Yes, all is fine. Please go on.
Excellent. Thank you. So I'm going to present you our prioritization process, product prioritization process. This is part of the project we're conducting with our regional office for Europe as part of the EU for Environment program. The aim is to support Ukraine in the implementation of its GPP policy. We have numerous activities. One of them is the inclusion of environmental criteria in the e-platform Prozoro, you're probably aware of. The development of SPP guidelines for 2 new products, and we're going to talk about that. And we are using our prioritization methodology for this purpose. We are working closely with Ministry of Economy, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of of environment, and the implementing organization is a Living Planet that you all probably know. So I will tell you more about our approach and methodology. We have developed in 2012 public procurement implementation guidelines, which are a recognized methodology at world level to develop SPP policies and implement them. We have updated those guidelines in 2021. You see on the screen the cover of the second edition. So we're using this methodology when we support countries. What is the methodology about? Countries develop a status assessment. It is a kind of a baseline, but the operational module is about developing sustainable criteria. And for that, we do a prioritization. We select a number of product groups based on certain criteria that I will mention, that I will expose. And we do that together with the market analysis, because we have to check the availability of the products on the market. After doing that, we're able to define the sustainability criteria that we will select for the priority products. And then we develop sustainable procurement guidelines after or together with the testing of tenders on the market to check that we have set the criteria at the right level and we can have successful tenders. All this feeds the SPP policy statement and the action plan of the country, together with the capacity building plan, communication strategy, monitoring system, and budget. So the goals of the prioritization module is really to prioritize robustly the products based on the risks of the different products and services, the priorities of the administration, the importance of the sector, the scope for action on the greener products, and of course, as I said, the market capacity. So you see that all that is closely connected to the product environmental footprint, which, for example, takes into account the risks, the environmental risks of the products and services. We have three parts. First of all, we do a preliminary prioritization. So we start from a long list. Then we look at the expenses, the spend analysis, are they big or small spend in government portfolio. And then we do a preliminary market study. Based on that, we're able to have a short list for which we measure the environmental impacts, we measure socioeconomic impacts, we assess the existence of certification schemes, eco-labels, etc. And then all that, the scores and the findings are included in a master table, which helps us then do the final selection of categories. So this has been done. You can see here the master table in an example where we take into account, as you can see, the expenditures, the average price premium of the greener product, market availability, environmental impact, socioeconomic impact, eco-labels existence, and then we have the total score, after which we selected sanitary cleaners, copying paper, and drinks and beverages based on the ranking. So in Ukraine, our colleagues from Living Planet, they followed that process very thoroughly, and they prioritized a number of, the products you see on the slide, on food and on construction. So food provision services and catering services, and on the other hand, construction of pipelines, communication lines, etc., and repair, maintenance services of road infrastructure. So then they also proposed sustainable procurement criteria for those families of products. So for example, you see that in the case of sustainable food, we're looking at the operation of the environmental management system in the catering enterprise, which is including, for example, energy and waste management. We have previous experience in managing environmental and social aspects. Here we're talking about selection criteria, how we select then the supplier. Do they have booking contracts for companies that employ workers with disability or socially protected companies? We look at in terms of technical specifications, we'll be asking then the bidders to provide food and beverages of organic, ecological or natural origin. They should use packaging from recycled or renewable sources. They should use detergent and equipment that meet environmental standards. We should see if they have availability of tap water, half portions, and vegetarian dishes, for example, in the canteens. In terms of award criteria, we're giving extra points for the bidders that are able to provide a menu that is healthy, varied, and includes sustainable foods, such as seasonal fruits and vegetables, a higher percentage of food from organic agriculture, consumption of tea, coffee, sugar that meet the criteria of fair trade, and then that are able to show that they can reduce the amount of food and packaging waste. In terms of execution of contract, staff should be trained to support sustainable practices, and they should show that they are achieving the goals to reduce waste or increase the level of recycling. In terms of design, construction, and maintenance of roads, the proposed criteria follow the EU approach. And so it's, for example, design and construction that reduces road rolling resistance, and this leads to a low associated fuel consumption, reducing the impact and use of resources related to construction materials, maximum on-site reuse of excavated materials and soils, reducing noise emissions at the stage of construction use and maintenance, increasing the durability of the material and reducing maintenance needs. There's also the need to introduce a drainage system of water pollution, etc., through the inclusion of creation of a habitat, natural habitat, and all that should lead to reducing flood damage. So here you have examples of types of criteria. Please be aware that we're following closely the EU eco labels, for example, for the design maintenance of roads. However, there is an adaptation on the Ukrainian context, of course. So this work is being done through consultation of stakeholders in Ukraine, and of course before the final approval of the procurement guidelines. I thank you very much, and Jaku, you are now at your disposal if you have any questions.
Дякую.
I will now ask my colleague Leticia to complement.
Летиція, прошу.
Thank you very much. Let me share my screen. Can you see my screen? No, it's not in full size, sorry. Now you can see.
Yes, we see.
Thank you. Well, my name is Leticia Montero. I'm a colleague of Farid, working at UNEP on consumption and production. And before I start, I also want to join the previous speakers in saying to you that the world is learning a lot from your strength, and thank you to you all. So my presentation is going to be on consumer information. How do we ensure that the right information is getting to consumer, and PEF is exactly about this. As you've been hearing already, we have this triple planetary crisis about climate change, pollution, and loss of biodiversity. And this is why sustainable consumption and production is a key solution. And within this goal 12 of the 2030 agenda, we have this target 8, which is exactly about this, about ensuring that people have access to the information. There is a good news, and is that consumers are indeed willing to consume in a more sustainable way. So we have 33% of consumers that are saying that they want to have those sustainable products. And you can also see in the graphic that search for sustainable products have been increasing a lot between 2016 and 2020. And this trend is really close. On the challenging side is that we've been listening about greenwashing. More than 40% of claims that are available on the internet are exaggerated, which is a nice word for saying greenwashing. And we can also see a lot of mistrust from consumers. Around 40% of them do not believe what they can, the green claims made by businesses. So this is why consumer information tools are key. And we have different kinds of tools. We've heard already about the type 1 eco-label. We heard about the EU flower. We have the type 2, which is self-declaration, when the company made say their green claim, and they choose on which topic they want to do this green claim. So it's not necessarily reflecting the hotspots of the product, the most important environmental impact of the product. And the self-declaration do not require a third-party certification. And unfortunately, it's with those self-declaration that we have more greenwashing. And then we have the type 3, which is the environmental product declaration, which is based on life cycle analysis. It's also multi-criteria, but it's more for businesses to businesses exchange of information. In Ukraine, you have the Green Crane. The Green Crane was created in 2003. In 2011, eco-labels were recognized as a state policy, and on this same year, Green Crane was recognized by the Global Eco-Labeling Network as being one of the high quality eco-label, this Genesis award, let's say. And recently, thanks to the EU for Environment, two product categories have been developed. So we have furniture, timber. This is one product category, and the second one is on plastic products. So we have developed criteria for those two product categories. And in addition to that, we are revising criteria for two other products, among which we have detergent. And here you can see few of the criteria that are being taken into account for detergent, such as reduction of pollution, reduction of waste, etc. It's for you to see which kind of criteria we do take into account. And here you can see a few results on the marketing study that was done. So in Ukraine, there is between 90 and 100 tons of detergent that are consumed by year. And from all this consumption, we have around 10% that has an eco-label. 7% have the Green Crane eco-label, which is the Ukrainian eco-label. Around 4% have the EU flower eco-label. And we can find also a few products that have other labels from other countries. Now, I would like to take one more minute to share with you some work we have been doing with PEF at UNEP. So this has been done through another EU project, which is called Intex project. And the objective of this project is to increase the knowledge on PEF for SMEs, governments, and technical institutions. And what I want to show you is that we have developed some tools, some information that might be really useful for you. You have the link in the slide. So, for example, we have the 16 environmental impacts considered in the PEF method. You will be able to go through that. We also have some explanation on the 10 steps to develop a PEF study. And we have some also insights on how much would cost a PEF study for a company. So this is just for you to know that this material exists, and you have the link. I can paste it in the chat afterwards. And with this, I thank you very much. Thank you.
Дякуємо вам. І за регламентом наразі ми
Thank you very much. And according to our schedule, we're going to switch to our next part of our event is actually using the environmental footprint at the level of the company. And we're going to start with the potential impact of the PEF system for enterprises exporting to the European Union markets. Again, please, Anne Schrijver, the floor is yours.
Вийдіть, будь ласка, з презентації, пані
Yes,
Летиція.
but I would like to ask Letitia to close the presentation, to stop sharing the screen. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So just a second.
Прошу.
Thank you.
Please go on.
Thank you very much. Indeed, I will take the next few 10-15 minutes to just deep a little bit diver in the use of PEF. I really would like to make sure it is clear, because PEF can be seen as an instrument in a toolbox. So the overall aim of Europe is to reduce the environmental footprint of all the products that are consumed within the European Union, and so with that contribute to the policy objective of climate neutrality by 2050. So they are envisioning to really focus on all the products and reduce the impact of all the products that are consumed on the European market. So this means this would also cover products imported from Ukraine, for example, on the European market. And so PEF, like said before, could specifically, for example, be used in the green claims initiative to substantiate green claims. It could be used, for example, as we saw, what I touched upon shortly before is the batteries directive with the mandatory use of PEF in a digital product passport, or for example, also in green product procurement. Next slide, please. The benefits of companies or industries from using the PEF method. Next slide, please. Thank you. The benefits for companies of using the PEF method are multiple, because it will create a level playing field for industry. It is also, this methodology is effect-based, creates effect-based information. It leads to a score, a number. It helps reducing the impact through sustainable innovations, because if you reduce or fine-tune certain parameters of your production process, and you can recalculate the results and then see how much reduction you achieved. It is state of the art. It's really the most recent available, and really based on years of discussions with all experts in the field. So it is, if you want to be future-proof, let's say, it is advisable to start using and start to be familiar with the PEF method, so you could be ready for future policy recommendations that would come out. Next slide, please. Because in the next slide, I specifically highlight here the example of the batteries regulation. So the EU battery regulation, which was adopted by the Environmental Council. So it's not yet fully approved yet. In March 2020, 2022, so a few months ago, it was adopted by the Environmental Council. At the moment, a final agreement needs to be reached between the member states, the European Parliament, and the European Commission. So this is still ongoing before it can really enter into force. The regulation today indicates that you shall cover or you shall look at the full life cycle of batteries. And it really has the goal to ensure that only the greenest and the best performing batteries make it onto the European market, so that are allowed on the European market. It focuses on all types of batteries, industrial, light mean batteries, but also electrical vehicle batteries. And so it specifically requires mandatory that each battery that comes on the European market shall be accompanied with a carbon footprint declaration calculated based on the PEF methodology. There is also a PFCR specifically for batteries. So whoever is a major exporter of batteries towards the European Union will be influenced by this regulation. Next slide, please. What I wanted to, I don't know, there was also a poll. I don't know if you want to do the poll before or after. Maybe we could do it now. There are two specific questions that we would like to ask to the audience, because we would like to see if there are out of which product categories that are available today. We would like to see in the audience if there are certain product categories that are more or less of interest or of practical use within Ukraine. So it would be nice if the first poll specifically focuses on food and drink related categories, but then the next poll is on other types of products, industrial products. So far, 45 people participated, so almost 50% of the participants. Let's wait a little bit more. And what I see so far in the results is that the largest interest would go to dairy products, like 72% of the participants indicate that dairy products would be most relevant. And after that, what follows is pet food. And I will, That's for the first question. And in the second question, I see a high interest for batteries and hot and cold water piping systems. And also textile industry, and of course, liquid laundry detergents. I hope I will also ask the organizers that we can save this poll as well, so we can also use it in our project later on. That would be nice. Thank you very much.
Yes, we will save it.
That's great. Thank you. So I would like to continue. So we got in total 55 responses. It was really, really good for us to see this. We have, I can actually also share the results, I think. Now you should be able to see the results. where we see indeed a high interest in dairy products, pet food, and then batteries, IT equipment, pipes, laundry, detergents, and apparel and footwear. Okay, thank you very much. I would like to, as the last 2 minutes of this of my presentation, I would like to share with you a small video from the learning of a previous project we did on the use of PEF in Lebanon. It was a very similar project to this one, but focusing on other countries like Lebanon, Tunisia. And there was one wine producer who participated very actively, and I would like to show you a video that they made on this. So I'm going to share my screen and share with you the video.
Les Coteaux d'Héliopolis, a vine growing cooperative established in 1999 in the aim of substituting illicit cannabis plantation by noble vine plantation. This will be not only an added value for our product, but it will be an added value as well for our community and for our land, for our identity.
Thank you very much. And with this, I would like to give the word back. Thank you.
Дякуємо вам. Я спостерігаю за вашим
Thank you so
активним.
much. I see that you have really active in our chats and they comment. Thank you very much for being so active in the chat. And I would like to remind you, if you will have some questions, we will try to find the answers to all of your questions in the Q&A session. We have a specifically dedicated time for that. And right now, I would like to pass the floor for Valid Harp, for example of the PEF application, Lebanese wine. So please, once again, welcome the Associate Professor, the Chair of the Department of Chemistry and Biochemistry for Holy Spirit, University of Kaslik, Lebanon. So please, Valid Harp, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Так, yes, we hear you.
Yeah, and you can see my screen?
Yes, but not full screen.
Okay. My name is Walid Harb. I'm from Lebanon. I'm associate professor at the Holy Spirit University of Kaslik and a PEF expert in Lebanon. So thank you for Anne for the nice video. So I will continue from Anne videos. So I will state the context of my study. I will give you an example of PEF application in Lebanon. So it was in 2017 in the context of SwitchMed program with UNIDO. It's aimed to to improve the environmental performance of the winery of Chernobyl, of the Couvent Rouge at Beka. It aims to identify what will be the hotspot, or what will be the relevant processes, and what will be the relevant impact category that help the company to take a decision according to the environmental requirement. So, of course, the methodology adopted in this study is PEF-CR, Product Environmental Footprint Category Rules Pilot on Wine, published in 2017, version 6.3. The product is a bottle of wine exported to UK for 0.7 milliliter, 0.7 liter, and bottled in the number bottle. And the whole life cycle taken into consideration. The boundary system is from cradle to grave. We consider all the stages of the life cycle. Of course, for the data inventory, we with the collaboration of Couvent Rouge, we took some data and we use EcoInvent as a background data, and the CIMA Pro to modelize the life cycle assessment, and of course with the assessment of the quality of the data. As the PEF recommend, we have 12 impact category. This 12 impact categories, so we need to analyze how to apply the hotspot analysis. This hotspot analysis aims to identify what is relevant in the process and the impact category or stages. First, we identify 7 impact categories, of course, by cumulatively contribute to the at least 80%. Then by plotting these results, or by analyzing this result, the most relevant processes is the production of glass, the pruning, the grape production, and the distribution. Then we go into details in order to see what will be the process that cause this environmental burden. So the stages are the production, pruning the biomass, the irrigation, and production of glass. So the most relevant processes are production of glass and irrigation, and pruning the biomass. So the company make an open fire after pruning the vine, and these results help us to give the company some recommendation to use a lighter bottle and to try to convert the biomass into a compost, and to reduce the use of natural water. So the company take this recommendation and start to apply some modification by using lighter glass, and first converting the biomass into compost, and then apply not to use the lighter glass because there is a debate about the perception of the quality and the used glass, but the company adopts some recycling or reuse strategy by collecting all the reused bottle and then to wash it, sterilize, and then use it another time. By the use of reducing the amount of resources of natural water, so the company put a plan to build a container to collect or to gather all the rain water. This work aims to publication in the International Life Cycle Assessment Journal, and also this PEF give me the opportunity to be part of many different projects in Europe, to implement courses in the university. So this course will be given for the engineer. Also, many industry are interested in to have some certificates, and a certificate that give them the possibility to increase their export to Europe or other country. Finally, I would like to thank all the people that participate from UNIDO, from Fair Trade, from Prey Sustainability, and also Mr. Shabir from Couvent Rouge. And thank you for your attention.
Дякуємо вам. А ми переходимо до заключної.
Thank you so much. And we are going to switch to the final speech of our second part on the establishment of environmental performance system for products and organization. And we are going to once again ask Anne Schreiber to help us with that. Anne, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Yes, third time, last time. What I would like to do now, I really would like to take 15 to 20 minutes because I see we are really nicely on time, on schedule again, to go with you through the different steps on how to develop a product environmental footprint. So how to follow these PEF recommendations, let's say it like that. And indeed, what we see here on the slide is that before starting applying the methodology, it is very important to identify the right guidance document. Because what I said also before, there are two types of guiding documents. One are the product category specific documents, the PFCRs. And if there is a PFCR available for your product in scope, like for example, liquid detergent, or for example wine, or maybe indeed pet food or dairy, then you are in principle you should use this document. So if it is available, then you should use that document. If there is no PFCR available for your product in scope, then you use the most recent PEF recommendation. So the one that has been published now in December 2021, that one is the most recent one. So once, if we go to the next slide, once we select the right methodology, there are 10 steps to follow when you do a PEF study. And in the next slide, I will shortly guide you through the 10 different steps. Step 1, very important, is to identify the goal of your study and the scope. So what are we actually talking about? What is the functional unit? Which geography? So it's really to determine exactly the scope is very important. The second step is that you will, based on that, once you know what you're going to analyze, you should draft a detailed flow diagram with all the processes and activities that are part of your supply chain, of the life cycle of your product. Then the third step is to identify the data needs. And this means to collect the company-specific data. So if you follow a PFCR, the PFCR will specify what shall be mandatory company-specific and what shall be, all the rest can be default data from a secondary database. And that is also the same when you follow the general PEF methodology. Then the fourth step is to build the model and to analyze it. So for here, actually, in principle, you would use a software for that. The fifth step is to calculate the environmental impact of the model that you have built, and to identify what are the most relevant impact categories, life cycle stages, processes, elementary flows. The next step, step 6, is to check the model and to see if you fulfill the data quality requirements. PEF is quite strict on data quality requirements, which is also needed for the goal of PEF if we want to go for external communication or comparison with other products on the market. So number 6 is really like check if you fulfill the data quality requirements. And if you don't fulfill, then number 7 is to iterate and look for more specific and better data. Number 8 is to write then the PEF report. There is a specific template available in the PEF recommendations that you should follow when you write the PEF report, which also specifically indicates what shall be written in there. For sure, company-specific data can stay fully confidential, but the PEF report template is really there to ensure that there is a minimum level of transparency on how the calculations have been done. Then number 9 is the step on verification and validation. So each PEF study shall be verified or reviewed by an external third-party review panel or reviewer. And this also requires a mandatory on-site visit. And step 10, the final step, is to of course, implement all the reviewer recommendations, and then also provide, if you want to publish it and make it public, provide the aggregated data set to the European Commission. Next slide, please. So these were the 10 steps to follow. And here in the next slide is just to highlight again the importance of the scope, of defining the scope, the goal and the scope, where you also define the system boundaries. Because, for example, the PEF methodology writes that if you have a final product, for example, a product that is sold to the consumer, like a t-shirt, or a bottle of wine, then you shall include it's mandatory to include all the life cycle phases, including the use and the end of life of the product. While, for example, if you have an intermediate product like metal sheets, in that case, of course, you don't know what is going to happen with the metal sheet, what is going to be the further processing. And then you can stop at the manufacturing gate, and you can neglect the use and the end of life of the product. Next step. Next slide, sorry. When we talk about data collection, the data collection, there are I would say that the PEF methodology is very unique on the level of data collection. If you go in any type of life cycle assessment methodology, or if you look at the ISO, you will never see like really such a strange and so very high requirements on data collection. So the PEF methodology really specifies which data shall be company specific and that you have to collect. If you cannot collect that data, you simply cannot do the study. And then also all the secondary data have to be PEF compliant. So there are also the European Commission made PEF compliant databases available for use for this purpose. Next slide, please. What I said before, so once you have all this data and you start developing the model, you need, you could argue that maybe you don't need a specific tool and maybe you can do it in Excel, but as an expert in this, I can tell you, you really need a calculation tool. There are some tools on the market for that, open tools or commercial tools, so several ones. Also, certain industries develop their own tool for their members to make the use of the PEF more available and practical. Okay, next slide. And so with this tool, you can then calculate the mandatory, again, this is a very strong requirement of the PEF method, 16 environmental impact categories. So these impact categories are to be calculated using the exact methodology prescribed in the PEF method. And they are also added together through a weighting set that is provided by the European Commission. And so the 16 indicators can also be combined into one single score. Next slide. Because finally, so the outcome of a PEF study are multiple. You can, when you do a PEF study, you also identify which are the most relevant impact categories, so one of those 16 or several of those 16, which are the most relevant life cycle stages or processes or elementary flows like emissions, for example. So a PEF study will help you, will help you identifying those things. It will also give you the list of the 16 environmental impacts, but it will also give you the final PEF single score. So it's really a final single number which indicates the PEF score of the products that you analyzed. Next, please. Exactly. This is actually my last slide. So eventually, there are many applications possible with the results of a PEF study. It could really be used to improve your product. So to do strategic planning, to analyze, for example, also your bill of materials, your suppliers, your portfolio. You can use it to inform customers or stakeholders about the environmental performance of your specific product. So I hope with this, it makes it a bit more understandable what we mean when we talk about PEF. And for sure, we still have some time for questions, so feel free to ask any questions, clarification questions. I'm happy to answer. Thank you.
Дякую вам, пані Андешрайвер. І якщо
Yes, thank you very much, Anne. And if you do not mind, we still have some time. And as I can see in our chat, we have a question from Olena Maslakivska. So what quick and easy to use instruments and tools, the one that you have distinguished, you would recommend to use during the reconstruction of Ukrainian cities and economy to reduce the environmental impact? Thank you. Yes, can anyone answer this question, or do you have any ideas about that? Anne, maybe you would like to answer that?
I'm catching my breath because I'm a bit. It's of course. I mean, when I think about PEF, for sure, product environmental footprint, I would not say it's the most suitable tool when we talk about reconstruction of cities, because it really focuses on products. But then there is also the organization environmental footprint, which focuses on organizations. I think I'm thinking about the presentation of the representative of the EU delegation of Ukraine, because there he also talked about tools for the construction industry. And probably because there is a program, for example, at the European Commission that is called Levels, and that is specifically focusing on the environmental impact of buildings and of buildings. So that could maybe also be helpful, but maybe someone else can give a more concrete answer.
Дякуємо вам за відповідь. Ще хтось хоче щось
Thank
додати?
you for your answer. But if do we have any other colleagues who would like to answer that, or who would like to add up to that, or is that okay? I see we have another question, and I think that will be the last question, and we'll switch to the next part of our discussion. In your point of view, the environmental footprint, whether it influences the gastrotouristic destinations, so whether it influences the attractiveness of the tourist destinations and gastro-touristic destinations.
І я бачу, що це запитання від
And I see that it's the question from Микола Баштовий, and there's also, and I think that maybe someone would like to explain us, what do you mean by the gastro-touristic destinations, so that we would have the questions better. Yeah, like so touristic destinations is basically, you know, the attractive place that is attractive due to its ecological products like cheese or wine. So, and the ecological footprint of this product might influence or not. So do you think it will influence the attractiveness of this touristic destination? So let us say that is a place that can be popular among the tourists. So do you think that the ecological footprint, but the environmental footprint would be important point for the attractiveness of this place? Thank you. But I would like to ask us to stick to these two questions. We will keep them in mind from Mykola Bashtovy and from Olga Sobotko, but we will give the time to our distinguished speakers to think of how they can respond to these questions, if you don't mind. Right now, I would like to ask us to go on a short break. And during this short break, I would like to ask you to take a look at the concept of the circular economy of Ukraine. And please do not forget that we're going to have the second part after that.
Кількість населення планети постійно зростає, а разом із ним ростуть і його потреби. Якщо не відділити темпи економічного росту від темпів використання ресурсів, до 2050 року людство щорічно буде споживати понад 140 мільярдів тонн руди, викопного палива, мінералів та біомаси. Індустріалізація допомогла мільйонам людей подолати бідність і покращити якість життя. Але водночас спричинила умови, в яких людство та планета більше не можуть існувати. Необхідно створити таку систему, в якій захист довкілля буде пліч-опліч йти з економічним зростанням. Світ потребує фундаментальних перетворень для забезпечення сталого виробництва і споживання та подолання до 2050 року кліматичної кризи, враховуючи потенціал нашої планети. Сьогодні в більшості країн світу переважає лінійна модель економіки, коли ресурси добуваються, переробляються та перетворюються у відходи, які не мають подальшого застосування. Однак зміни вже відбуваються, і циркулярна економіка поступово набирає обертів. Національні промислові підприємства споживають природні ресурси для виробництва своєї продукції, переважно не піклуючись про подальшу утилізацію утворюваних відходів. Виснажуються надра, забруднюється довкілля, накопичуються відходи, що призводить до деградації природних систем та екологічних катастроф. Для вирішення екологічних та соціально-економічних проблем зусилля світової спільноти наразі зосереджені на досягненні сталого виробництва та споживання. Існує нагальна потреба перейти на модель циркулярної економіки через очевидні економічні наслідки від деградації довкілля чи втрачених економічних можливостей тих виробництв, які не використовують повторно матеріали після їхнього першого життєвого циклу. Циркулярна економіка – це самовідновлювана економічна система, яка дозволяє максимально ефективно та екологічно використовувати ресурси на всіх етапах виробництва та залучити весь ланцюг вартості товарів та послуг для створення замкненого циклу. Розглядаються способи багаторазового використання продуктів, деталей та матеріалів. Всі відходи, що утворюються в процесі виробництва, повторно використовуються в інших ланках ланцюга вартості, що дозволяє уникнути забруднення довкілля. Нова і більш екологічна безпечна модель економіки – це не тільки вимога сучасного світу, а й чудова можливість для України підвищити економічні показники, покращити добробут населення і зменшити негативний вплив на навколишнє середовище. Циркулярна економіка пропонує підприємствам ощадливе використання сировини, ефективне споживання наявних ресурсів та зменшення утворення відходів. Принцип 3R – зменшуй, повторно використовуй та перероблюй. Циркулярна економіка виходить за рамки виробничого процесу та інтегрується в економіку країни як основна стратегія для пошуку синергії у створенні замкненого циклу використання ресурсів. Впровадження такої економіки передбачає побудову нових бізнес-моделей на основі екодизайну, ремонту, повторного використання, відновлення й заміни продукції для максимального запобігання утворенню відходів. Підсумовуючи бізнес-моделі циркулярної економіки, виділяють 5 основних компонентів. Перший – дизайн продукції. Це проєктування виробів таким чином, щоб вони мали більш тривалий термін використання та можливість ремонту, демонтажу, повторного використання чи перевиготовлення. Другий – виробничі процеси, в яких усі ресурси використовуються максимально ефективно. Третій – споживання ресурсів. Сприяє відповідальному вибору споживача через маркування продукції з інформацією про вплив на довкілля, споживання енергії чи води та термін використання продукції. Кожен громадянин може долучитися до циркулярної економіки у своєму повсякденному житті та стати частиною певних змін. Четвертий – управління відходами. Передбачає пріоритетність етапів поводження із ними, запобігання утворенню, обробка для повторного використання, рециклінг та відновлення. При цьому перевага надається запобіганню та повторному використанню. Захоронення відходів на сміттєзвалищах вважається найменш прийнятним варіантом. П'ятий – перетворення відходів в ресурси. Розширює ринок вторинної сировини та повторного використання. Гасло циркулярної економіки – забезпечити максимальну ефективність кожного процесу в життєвому циклі товарів чи послуг. При переході на таку модель економіки промисловість очікують радикальні зміни – від вибору сировини, способів виготовлення продукції до використання побічних продуктів одного виробництва як повноцінної сировини для іншого. Це дозволить уникнути втрати вартості матеріалів і продукції, дефіциту ресурсів, різкого зростання цін, накопичення відходів, деградації довкілля і зміни клімату та сприятиме розвитку інновацій, зростанню кількості робочих місць і підвищенню конкурентоспроможності економіки. Україна обрала зелений курс, в якому основним компонентом є циркулярна економіка. Наша країна і надалі стимулюватиме розвиток національної економіки, дбатиме про покращення здоров'я та добробуту людей. Сьогодні Європейський Союз реалізує програму Європейського зеленого курсу. Це потужний комплекс заходів, який допоможе країнам ЄС досягти вуглецево-нейтрального рівня до 2050 року. До нової стратегії включено дії ЄС щодо циркулярної економіки, які дозволять пришвидшити перехід до неї, захищаючи біорізноманіття та стимулюючи інновації. Центр ресурсоефективного та чистого виробництва впроваджує практики та принципи циркулярної економіки в Україні. За 8 років існування за підтримки ЮНІДО центр допоміг 180 вітчизняним підприємствам визначити на своєму виробництві потенціал до ресурсозбереження. Економія, раціональне використання та ефективне споживання ресурсів – це все має бути в основі успішного та сталого бізнесу. Ваше підприємство може отримати низку переваг, долучившись до зеленого курсу України. В цьому вам допоможуть кваліфіковані експерти Центру ресурсоефективного та чистого виробництва. Відео розроблено за фінансової підтримки Європейського Союзу.
Так, я сподіваюся, що ви всі встигли трохи перепочити. Корисно.
I hope that you've had a minute of rest and you spend this couple of minutes with benefits, and now you have all the strength and power to get to our third final part of our event. And we will start with this part by giving the floor to Andriy Varfoimeyev, the director of the Resource Efficient and Clear Production Center of Ukraine, who's going to give us the pilot PEF projects in Ukraine, the selections of the demonstrational companies, experts, and training and assessments. So please, Andriy. Yes, thank you very much, Katarina. And yes, after we have listened to what's the assessment of the PEF is, I wanted to give you the outline of what are the next steps that we're about to take, because in the framework of the EU for Environment program that is supported by the European Union, the next step for us is the pilot assessment. We're actually assessing the environmental footprint, products environmental footprint in Ukraine. And we're also going to be creating the national capacities. We're going to build, to create the experts, to raise the experts who understand how methodology works, and to also to conduct the assessment in the enterprises, just for us to work on this tool that might be very interesting for Ukrainian enterprises, because it's definitely going to help them to increase the level of visibility for their products and to increase their environment, to help them to increase their environmental impact of the products. That's also very important. There's a lot of labeling that the product is eco-friendly, but how to prove that it is a problem? So evaluating the product's environmental footprint using this methodology will give you the opportunity to also visualize your green claims. I would like to start my presentation starting from what we are, what our center does. We are the center that has been created in 2013 in the framework of the UNIDO's projects to implement the clean resource production in Ukraine. That is our main task, and this is what we have been doing and working on in the framework of different projects with UNIDO, with the financial support of Switzerland and other organizations. So we also worked with energy efficiency project with GIZ, and we have been working on additional training, professional training. We have been working with USAID. We have been working with the embassies of Norway and United States of America on working with that. And we worked on supporting the Ukrainian enterprises in using the different resources to understand whether they are ready for the sustainable and green procurement. And it has been mentioned by Johannes in the very first presentation. That is one of the ways and one of the tools of greening our economy. So to provide an additional requirements for the procurement that will stimulate enterprises for a greener production and greener manufacturing. We are constantly collaborating with enterprises. That has grown throughout the years, but unfortunately, due to the all understandable reasons, we will not have enough enterprises like this. But you can see our overall experience. We're constantly working with more enterprises, and you can see the results of the cases and the activities that we have performed. These are the results of all of those activities that enterprises have conducted and all that we have monitored in the framework of one of the projects that we implemented. We are mostly working on evaluating the environment, the enterprises on the clean resources production. That also helps us to minimize the usage of all of the additional resources like energy and water. Based on our experience, we might say for sure that we have the 8 approaches to the clean resource production manufacturing that has been used in our work, and those activities that have been actually implemented by the enterprises. They are considering the changes of technology or changing of equipment, but there is one approach is that says the change of a product or replacement of the product, and it had not been widely used because it requires a lot of hard decisions and a lot of right forecasting of work. What was going to happen next with the product if you're going to make these changes? So when we're evaluating the production, we cannot evaluate that. So evaluating the ecological impact and footprint of the product will give you the opportunity to know which of the elements of the life cycle of the product are given the biggest impact on environmental footprint, and thus you can change your product slightly, for example, changing the packaging or others. Like, for example, we have seen that an example that Valid has presented us with, for example, using the lighter glass, thus diminishing the CO2 emissions and the usage of the resource. So we haven't seen that experience yet. Before we have been piloting, I think that when we're going to be piloting this research, we will be able to cover that. Speaking about the program for EU for Environment, it's made up of 5 components and being implemented in the Eastern Partnership countries, and Ukraine is one of part of this countries. So right now we are meeting in the second component, the circular economy and the new growth opportunities that has been implemented by the UNEP and UNIDO. And our center is a national partner for UNIDO in implementing this project. And in the framework of this project, you can see the numbers of tasks that has already been completed because the program for EU for Environment has started in 2019, and right now we're going to 2023, and it's going to be the final year, the year of completion of this program. So most of the tasks that we have outlined have been completed in Ukraine, so you can read out the results on the link below. But just very briefly about this results of our work. For example, the video that you have seen is actually the result of our awareness campaign, the video that you have seen before my presentation. So also we've had also the practical steps on the clean production. We also had the, again, practical introduction of the enterprises. We worked with Entrepreneurs Club in Poltava and Khmelnytsky to promote that, and also working with our demonstrational enterprises where we have started to work with that. And unfortunately, we have 2 positions more because we wanted to have 12 companies to participate in our pilots. We have signed the contracts and started working with all of the 12 companies, but unfortunately, due to the war, a lot of companies have left the project. Some of the companies don't even exist already, so we have to choose new companies. So we still have 2 positions open. So if some of our participants would like to be a part of this program, then you can apply still. So basically, there you're going to be the part of our pilot, and we will be able to evaluate your production as well. The next step was also for additional we're working with the waste, and we have conducted it with our 2 territorial communities in Ukraine. And the component 4, the one that we're going to be starting implementing as soon as possible, and there's going to be my couple of next slides explaining that, that would be the component of using the unified green product market and the evaluation of the product environmental footprint. In the framework of this element, as I've already said, we're going to be training Ukrainian professionals, and we're going to be working with Ukrainian enterprises to pilot this approach. Talking about the experts that are going to be trained and educated, we have already planned a training course that's going to be made of 3 sessions. That's going to be on the 3rd or 8th and 9th of November. So everyone who would like to participate in that, I would like to invite you and get registered. I'm going to have the link at the next slide. During this course, we really would like to see a lot of people participating there. We have around 35 positions available, but it's not enough for Ukraine, but we will have to start with that. And we'll not be able to cover 100 people like we're doing it, for example, today in the framework of our workshop. But again, in the framework of this training session, we're going to be choosing people from different sectors because we do understand we need to have the representatives of the state institutions because they need to have the understanding what would be the PEF evaluation and how you can use it, how you can implement it in the legislation. We're going to have the representatives of the expert communities, the enterprises representatives, if they're also interested to do that. And I think that universities will be also useful because, like you can see, the lead has been the representatives of the educational and research facility, and they've did this model as well. And we would be inviting different groups to provide their applications, and together with the coordination of our international experts, we're going to invite you to those trainings that are going to happen soon. The topics of this training you can see. that on the screen the basics of the life cycle evaluation and how it's going to be done to find how to find this rules for categories of products and how to use these rules. And we're going to have it all presented by Andy Schreiber during our presentations and during our training, and how you can use all of the knowledge further on. As I've already said, we're going to have around 35 participants for this training course, and I do believe as we're going to have a different background from experts, then we're going to be providing the interpretation in Ukrainian for those training as well. And we're going to be providing the recordings in both languages so that we would have this knowledge preserved in Ukrainian as well. Maybe they will be able to use it again in the universities or for your independent training for those topics. So this would be the link for to apply to these trainings. I'm going to give you the application form. You can go to that and you can apply. Among the experts, who's going to be the experts and the participants of this training, we're going to choose then the experts who are going to be then together with the under the coordination and the supervision of international experts, so the people who are going to be working at these enterprises. Of course, we understand that in order to work with the enterprises, we need to provide the good quality of work, and is going to be also provided by the national expert. But we need to have our national experts trained as well. You have to understand what the life cycle of the product is. You will need to have some certain experience in modeling and the modeling of the life cycle of the products, and doing the research at the enterprises, collaborating with the enterprises. Of course, it would be preferable for you to know English, because we're going to have the coordination, the work coordinated with international experts, so you will definitely need English for better communication. And it would be very good so that our experts that we're going to choose later on for the further on evaluation and assessment, I do hope that we're going to, it will depend on how many experts we will have, but it will be very good for these experts to have the experience of working with the enterprises and the experience of the project work, because there is a peculiarities about that, and the ability to present the results, because the experts are not only doing the results for the enterprises, not only visiting the enterprises a couple of times, not only getting acquainted with the enterprise, but you will need to go there to collect the certain data, to build up the model of the product, to evaluate the impact, to present it to the enterprise, to approve it with the enterprise. And then, as far as this is the pilot project, so you will have to also have this opportunity to present the results of your research, like, for example, presenting it in Paris. So we basically need to also be able to present you the results of your research at different informational events as well. So, okay, it's free of charge to participate in this training program. So please, if you would like to do that, please register, do apply. Speaking about these enterprises that we also invite to our pilot program for this evaluation, that would be also very interesting for the enterprises, we believe, because that will definitely help the enterprises to show your dedication, to show your dedications to the issues of the environmental footprint for the product. I don't know whether that's important, that much important in Ukraine yet. Quite recently, one of my colleagues have asked us about the importing with the ecological certificates, the products from China. I think that's right now in Europe, in Ukraine, we have a situation that we need all of the products we can get, despite their certification. So I do believe that will be very important for European exports then. And if the enterprises would like to export their products further on, they will have to take this training as well, and the piloting will be free of charge, but that will be the free of charge piloting for 3 enterprises in Ukraine. So this is going to be, let us say, a limited offer, but it will give the opportunity for the enterprises to understand the life cycle of their products, to have some amendments, to save resources. For example, if it's going to be also if it's going to come to the implementation of the project result as well. So you have seen that in the previous presentations that there are specific recommendations how you, for example, can save the use of water or any other resources. And also the question of the energy, that is something that is very relevant for Ukraine right now, because we have a lot of different supply chains that have been broken. But having this evaluation of your environmental footprint, you will be also able to understand what are your availability options and what is going to be the impact in the environmental footprint of your product the most. And of course, we understand that it will definitely going to improve the image of your enterprise and attractiveness of your enterprise. Because if we're talking about the evaluation of the evaluation that we're about to conduct, as result of that, we will be creating the business cases and will be presenting the results at the European Union exhibitions as well. So those results are going to be then shared on the very different levels. And I think that this visibility for any kind of enterprise is going to be an important way for the publicity as well. What we would like to see in further role recommendations. Of course, we know that there are certain requirements for the sector. First of all, there has to be a manufacturing enterprise, and you have seen that there are some certain sectors that were interested more. You remember that Anne has presented that there are some recommendations for some product categories already, that there are the rules and recommendations, guidelines that have already been created. So it would be good if that would be from there. But from what I remember, most of the popular categories are covered there. The most important thing from the enterprise that you need to invest your time, because it's a certain collaboration that takes time, and to be able to collaborate with the international and national experts and to share the information, on not only the supplies, but also on not only on the product, but also about the resources that you're using and materials that you're using, because it will definitely impact the results. Yes, we have an agreement that we're going to conduct, and of course, we're going to be following the confidentiality notions there as well. But to exchange the information in the framework of the pilot, this is something that is going to be our constant requirement. And a separate moment that I wanted to outline and voice over as well, that the enterprise has the right to make amendments in the products. Like, for example, sometimes our enterprises that have been working with the different agreements, when they do not have the right to change the product, because like for us, it is important to assess the product and to make amendments to make it better. So that is what is an important component for the enterprises to participate in this assessment. So this is really briefly on the requirements towards the enterprises that are going to participate in the program. These are the requirements for the experts that are going to be piloting the assessment, and the requirements for the enterprises with the international experts. So we will be gathering this information and are going to communicate it to both sides. From our side, from the side of our center, I can only say that we're definitely going to be supporting with our expertise, with our knowledge, that we're going to help us to establish the evaluative collaboration with the enterprises. We might not be that aware with the methodology, but we're definitely going to help the collaboration with the enterprises, because we know this enterprise side, and we're going to help all of the participants of the process. That's the closest steps of our project. You can see on the 3rd of November, we're going to have this training started. It's very, very soon, and we would like to finalize our pilots spring next year. I do hope that we're going to have the full results of our pilots then, because we have quite a lot of time to do that. So I think I'm slightly out of my time, but I think that we have been quite good with the previous schedule. So I hope that we have some time for Q&A session. Thank you.